I want to point out, maybe identify kind of a collection of patterns that exist in our world and are identified, and really a picture is given of these patterns in the Bible, and they all come together. So there's a great mystery for a lot of people who study the Bible in Revelation, which is the book that explains the end of time, the last days here on earth. And Jesus in the 22nd chapter of Revelation calls himself the morning star. There's a lot of confusion about that, and I think I know what that means now. While studying the old prophets, and then Paul said something very interesting in the New Testament. The Apostle Paul wrote most of the New Testament. So, bringing in the old prophets, something that I have found that is very interesting is that there are 3 moments in world history, one yet to come, where the whole world is judged by God all at the same time, all within the same 100 years or so. And at the end of time, it is actually all in 7 years. The whole world is judged. And the patterns are, the judgments are for the same reasons. The people become the same type of wickedness, and it's all the exact same, no matter what time it is given, what time of human history, no matter what the expression is. The core of these things are all the same. So here's something very interesting that I found. The 3 moments that the world is all judged at the same time are in the days of Noah, when the flood, we all know that one. Even an unbeliever knows that the Bible says that the world was flooded all at once except for one family who made it. The whole world was judged all at once because of the wickedness of all the people's hearts that were upon it by that point. The second time is in the time of most of the major prophets. We have Isaiah, Jeremiah, Daniel, Ezekiel, all of those men and more, Habakkuk, all of these prophets that were prophesying basically the same patterns and the same reasons and the same things. And one particular verse comes to mind that kind of identifies that the whole world is being judged at the same time, the whole ancient world. And it's Isaiah 34:1. And it says, "Come near, you nations, and listen. Pay attention, you peoples. Let the earth hear, and all that is in it, the world and all that comes out of it. The Lord is angry with all nations. His wrath is upon all their armies." And what God does is something very interesting. He uses the hearts of evil peoples to bring judgment upon the people who he wants to change. And that's always been the same. So in Isaiah it is written that Assyria, which was the first serious world power, it took over basically all of the ancient world except for tiny little Judah in the middle. And there's a map online that's very interesting in that. In Isaiah, God says that I am using Assyria as a sword because their hearts are bent on evil, and I'm going to let them have their way, but really they're having my way. And so Assyria laid waste to the whole ancient world, and they considered themselves God. And then all in one night, God destroyed all of Assyria, the whole army. And secular history doesn't know what to do. They kind of scattered like, man, Assyria just kind of disappeared suddenly. Maybe they had a civil war. They have all these speculations about what happened. And the Bible writes that in one night, the angel of the Lord decimated 180,000 of them, which is all of them basically. And so Assyria was wiped out. And about 100 years later, Babylon filled that gap. So these world powers, the next one was the ancient Roman Empire, Greece, all those, we know all about that. These world powers always exist. And so in the time of Isaiah, Babylon and Assyria were both used. Assyria took, at this point, Israel was split into 2 kingdoms, the southern and the northern kingdoms. The northern kingdom, which was the bigger, the 10 tribes out of 12, they were taken by Assyria because their king was wicked, and so God used Assyria to take captive and take back to their homeland the northern tribes of Israel. the two southern ones, they held out. They had a loyal king that was loyal to God, and so they survived the first Assyrian one, but by the time Babylon took power 100 years later, they had gotten quite evil, sacrificing their children in the fire, worshiping false gods. All the same elements that are present today in a different expression, but the core is the same, like I said. And so 100 years later, 150 years later, Babylon also took the last two tribes. So at this point, Israel is inhabited completely by people who took them. And so the whole world was judged. And then after that, the Lord wiped out Babylon. Same thing happened with the Roman Empire. You know, all these empires that have come and taken over the whole world, they've all fallen. Only Israel remains. And Israel is the carnal Israel, which is like the physical nation, you know. Kind of like how you have the physical nation of America, but like not all of us agree with what the leadership of America is doing. So it was the same in Israel, but at that point, only the prophets disagreed with what the people were doing. Everybody else was on board. Physical Israel, back in those ancient times, was an expression of the spiritual Israel to come, and I will make a longer lesson on that. It's fascinating. But so all of these patterns of judgment and deliverance, 70 years after Babylon took the two northern tribes, 70 years later, this is the book of Daniel, by the way, they are returned. And so judgment has a purpose. It's not just punishment. And we'll get to that in a second. But it's the third time that the world is judged all at once is the book of Revelation. And it's also spoken in other books in the New Testament, but that's the last time. And that's not just Israel. That's not just the ancient world. That's everybody, the whole world, every island, every nation, everybody. And there's a weaving of all these together, and it's this term, the days of Noah. And so when Jesus was speaking about what it would be like in the last days, in Matthew chapter 24, 24:37, he says, "As it was in the days of Noah, so it will be at the coming of the Son of Man," which is the end of time, which is what the book of Revelation is about. So 3 times in human history, the people become as bad as the days of Noah. 3 times in human history, the whole world is judged all at the same time. And so, here's something very interesting. The reason for the judgment is all the same. The type of people are all the same. The ways they're all judged is maybe a little different, but it says that 3 times, right? So Paul writes something very interesting in Romans 13, 11 and 12. And it says, "The hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because your salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over. The day is almost here." What does that mean? Does that mean he wrote it in the middle of the night and he was talking about his tomorrow? I don't think so. So back in ancient times, there were things called night watches. There wasn't much of a police force, so you don't always know when a foreign nation is going to invade, and so there were night watchmen posted up on the walls every night, and there were 3 night watches in Hebrew time. There's some confusion about this because in ancient Greece, they made it 4. But the Hebrews had 3 night watches. When Paul is speaking about the night is nearly over, the day is almost here, he's speaking about all of human history from the very beginning in Genesis to the very end in Revelation being represented as a night. Because since the fall, we have lived in that fallen state, and it's been nighttime. It's been a night. It's been a spiritual night. We have had the oppression of sin and the slavery of sin set upon us ever since the apple was eaten, and it will be that way all up until the end. And remember earlier when I said that in Revelation, Jesus is called the morning star. Revelation 22:16, "I, Jesus, have sent my angel to give you this testimony for the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and I am the bright morning star." So all of human history is a night. There are 3 watches, 3 major worldwide judgments. And at the very end of time, the morning star rises, and now the day has come. And that morning star is Jesus. And that's when Paul wrote, the night is nearly over, the day is almost here, the morning star is about to rise. So it's time to wake up and figure out what's going on, actually see what's going on here. And another important thing to note is that the night is always darkest, right before the light comes up, right before the light breaks, right before the morning star can start to illuminate the sky. That's when you can see the best stars, actually, is like 3, 4, 4:30 a.m. But right when it starts to get light, those stars start to disappear pretty quickly, and the day is here. Jeremiah, people don't understand that when the prophets speak, they're speaking the words of God. They're speaking to those patterns. They're not speaking just to their time or just to the end of time. People argue so much about this in theology, theological circles, churches, all this. They argue so much about this. No, Isaiah was talking about his time, period. The other side, no, Isaiah was talking about the end of time, period. And they're both right, but they're both wrong at the same time, because what Isaiah and the prophets speak about are patterns that reverberate through all of existence, from behind them, in front of them, all the way to the end of time and all the way to the beginning. And so when Jeremiah is writing about the coming judgment of Babylon on Judah, the northern or the southern 2 tribes, he's also speaking to our time. He's speaking to every time before judgment, when God's people who he has chosen must be judged by the evil in this world. And I'll get to that in a second too. So Jeremiah writes in Jeremiah 6:4, "But alas, the daylight is fading, and the shadows of evening grow long." And so it kind of seems backwards, right? Wait, the daylight is, I thought it was night, and it is. What Jeremiah was writing about just right before that was that the people alive in Judah, they swore it was day. They were experiencing the greatest wealth that Judah had ever seen. They were all, it's funny because excavations, archaeological excavations of the site of Judah at that time, right around 550 BC, there's just gold trinkets all over the place, under feet of ashes. Judah was burned. But underneath, there's all these gold trinkets, and it's very clear that the people there during this time of the siege were very, very, very wealthy. And so that's interesting, you know. We as human beings, we get to thinking that, oh, we're living in the best time ever because we are so comfortable, we have so much money. You know, men, they praise you when you prosper, and they praise themselves. We really think that we've come to a great time in human history whenever we're prospering by our own definitions. And we don't know that we are so poor spiritually. Some of us know. Some of us are starting to wake up to the meaninglessness of all this frivolous pleasure and wealth and junk, and that this society's definition of progress that just never ends hasn't really made us happier. We keep getting better technology, but now we're like further away from one another, and like kids don't play outside anymore. And there's some people that are starting to wake up to that, but others, they're fast asleep. They're like, oh no, I love my money and I love being the man. And this is the best time in human history because we got all this technology. Judah thought that too. And so when Jeremiah writes, but alas, the daylight is fading, he's talking about what they think. He's like, this day that you think you're in, judgment is coming. The shadows of evening grow long, and the night is about to fall. And we're in a dark period. Most of us don't understand it, but when the earth begins to rattle and the stars are rolled up like a scroll, and it becomes very clear that there's a God and judgment falls upon us in the end times, everybody's going to know that we're in trouble. Everybody's going to finally understand that This is a dark world. And so, when we think it's day and when it's night, but we're actually in darkness, what does that mean? The days of Noah, what are those like? In 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 1 through 4, 5, it says this about what those days of Noah are like. There will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful no matter what they have, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good way, treacherous, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but denying its power. We are captivated by the things that we can create and do. In the old days, the ancients were very aware that magic was real, and they were very captivated by it, building pyramids and doing everything that they could to seize this ultimate power that they found that they could have in this world, manipulate this world. We're so fascinated by what we can create with our own hands that we worship it. This is the Tower of Babel. This is AI technology. It's over and over and over. It's just so interesting to us, the power that we can wield. And we get to, like a rushing river, we just get so enthralled by it, we're not even thinking anymore. And we worship it without knowing it. I mean, does not America, as a collective entity, worship this thing called success and progress? And what is progress? Just making better stuff, creating more powerful technology, doing more powerful things. That's what we get up and do every day. Every single one of us almost, we get up every single day and we go pursuing this thing called success for ourselves, in the name of progress for America that we haven't really defined. We just keep making better stuff that enslaves us seemingly more and more. Like I said, we're no happier than we were 50 years ago in the name of this progress. We worship it because whatever you get up and serve, whatever you do, you're sacrificing everything you don't do. So when we get up every day and we go pursue success, we're not doing anything else. We worship it. And that's another theme all throughout all the prophets, is worshiping the works of our own hands. And that's what we do. And we think we're in the day. We think it's good times, we can do this forever, and it won't work that way. I kind of intentionally chose this location to make this message a little bit, because look how peaceful this is. Almost nothing more peaceful than the beach, tropical beach. Sure seems like day, but now I want to give the good news, though. And so, like I said earlier, the purpose of judgment is not just to punish the wrongdoing of the world like we're bad children. Which we are, we get to be spoiled, but those who choose God are chosen by God. And for those people, judgment is a little different. In the end times, it's spoken of that there will be saints, which are basically those who have chosen God, who will have to endure some very hard things in the tribulation. And there's a purpose for that. And it's because even those who choose God, we don't trust Him all the way yet. And, we get to trust in those grocery stores having food, and we get to trusting our own bank accounts and our own ability to do the right thing in this life. And we don't trust God, most of us, as much as we think, even those who believe in Him and love Him. We need to be refined through the furnace of affliction. We have to be purified and made spotless. And what does that mean? It's such a mystery. I'm going to make a full video on that one too because it needs one, but it's a real mystery that Jesus cleansed the world of the sins, but we still need to be purified. We need our wedding clothes. We need our white robes that Revelation speaks about. What does that even mean? To be made spotless? Am I not already spotless? Yes and no. Judgment for the unholy is in the hopes that once they don't have anything else to trust in, they will cry out to God. And those who won't will feel the wrath. Those who already do and just need to be purified and made spotless. My favorite verse in this, and there's just 100 of them. I'm building a good lesson on this, but the most clear-cut one was when God is talking to Isaiah about what's going to happen to Israel because of their forgetting God and worshiping what they can do. And Isaiah's like, well, when will this end? When will it be over and like it'll be better again? And God says, until all the cities are destroyed, and the streets are emptied, and my wrath is poured out, and though 1/10 in the world or in the 1/10 of the nation, both remain, I'm going to take it again. But then, as the oak tree leaves a stump when it is cut down, so the holy seed will be the stump in the land or the world. So what God is saying there is that when a world gets to the point where it's so bad that it's like the days of Noah, the only thing that will get us looking up again is wrath. It's kind of like raising a child. It's like when a child becomes so disobedient, they're like cussing at their mother. It's military school, or it's you got to pour some judgment on that kid, or else guess what? If you can't do that for your child, then you've ruined them. You have got to get a hold on a child like that. You cannot let a child grow into an adult from spoiled. It ruins them. Just like us, it ruins us as a people for God to allow us to just worship these things that we create and be spoiled brats. And so what he says is, I have to do this. I'm going to have to lay waste to the world. But that's going to wake a lot of people up. And at the end, when the dust settles and the smoke clears, there my people will be raising their hands for me, and they'll get it. And so like Paul wrote, the hour has come for you to wake up from your slumber, because your salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. The night is nearly over, and the day is almost here. Look towards the morning star, and think about what we worship. Think about what really matters. Because this world can be very dark and meaningless, and it's heating up.